Hi, I'm Tetreault with Global Sugar Art, and today I'd like to show you two different ways to make a rose out of gum paste. And I'm going to be using the all-in-one cutter and then just a single petal cutter to make the roses today. I'm not showing them how to be made on wires. These are going to be handmade roses that you can put right on a cake, and you don't have to worry about any wires on the cake. I will do another DVD or a YouTube video later on, and I'll post it on how to do roses on a wire as well. So this is an example, or a couple examples, of roses that can be done with, without the wire. And they're pretty easy to do. So I'll begin by showing you the different cutters. This series of cutters is by JEM Products, and I'm just holding two of them here, but I think there are about 5 or 6 different sizes. This obviously will make quite a larger rose, and this sort of a medium-sized rose. This is the FMM line. Again, there are several different sizes of cutters. And on this one, there's a little bit of a tip on each one, a little bit of a point. It just gives a slightly different shape to your flower. And then this is the PME brand. And these are rounded like the JEM brand. These are a hard plastic. These cut very well as well. And I think these are in 5 different sizes. And you can also find these as a metal cutter as well. For the single petal cutter, I've chosen the FMM variety. And this one has 5 different size petals to it. And this is what you'll use to make the rose when you're doing one petal at a time. It all depends what you want the final rose to look like or which you prefer, because one of them may be easier to do than the other. So let me show you both methods. I've got some gum paste all rolled out. And if you're using a pasta machine, I usually roll this out to about a number 5 or a number 6. Put a little bit of cornstarch on the board. Make sure this isn't sticking at all. And I'm going to use a medium-size cutter. And I'm going to cut 10 petals. Oops, getting away from me. 5, 6. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 5 more are 10. Now I'm going to use the back of the soft part of a cell pad or some sort of a sponge pad. And then you would use either a ball tool, or I prefer the end of a medium cell pin. And I'm just going to sort of soften these edges and make them thin and a little wavy. I'm just going to put that aside. I'm going to do all 10. So you're using the tool half on and half off the gum paste. The brand of gum paste that I'm using right now is Satin Ice. There are many different brands on the market. Fonderific has one that works very well. Or you can make your own with Tylose or gum tragacanth. And obviously you'll see after I've done the second rose that the ones where you're doing one petal at a time take a little bit longer. Okay, so I have my 10 petals. Now I need the center of the flower. When you look at a rose like this, the height and the width of that all depends on how large a center you use. I like to use 2 different things. One of them is what they call a cell bud. These are made by Cell Cakes, and they come in 4 different sizes. And this is just a little styrofoam bud that would be the center of your flower. If you want the flower to be totally edible, you can make the same sort of thing with just a little piece of gum paste. And you can let that dry ahead of time and have a bunch made, or you could use it fresh like this. So I'm going to use the one out of gum paste. I want that bud to be almost as high as the petal. Just about the same height as the petal. For sure, no higher. And I want to make sure that the top sort of comes to a point. So I'll begin by taking 5 of these petals and using a water brush or a little artist brush dipped in water. Get some water going here. I'm going to wet the bottom half of 5 of these. Okay. Start with 1 petal. Find the top. Let's see. And I'm going to wrap this sort of tightly around the top. So it goes all the way around and forms just a small hole at the top. Now I'm going to take a second petal on the other side, match up the height, and now I'm going to wrap that one around. And just lightly press at the bottom, and you can roll that back a little bit. Now that's the center of the bud. Take a third petal. You're still trying to keep a rather tight bud. And just keep adding them on one at a time. And a fourth. And I'm going to add the fifth right off, right across from each other. Oops, put that down. Okay. And then you can use your fingers or the end of a bud, cell stick, excuse me, and you can pull those leaves out and just curl them back. And that will give you, that's the bud, that's the center part. And if you want to put a calyx on this and use it as a flower bud, you're all ready to go. So now we'll do the other 5 petals. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of water on the bottom half. Now, the way I like to do these, I like to put all 5 of them on, just going all the way around the bottom, and then shape the flower afterwards. So I'm going to adhere that first petal, and then go over just about maybe a 1/4 of an inch and add my second petal. Keep them all the same height. Add your third petal, your fourth petal, and then on your last petal, I'm going to pull the very first one back. I'm going to add that last petal, and I'm going to tuck that last petal in so that they're all tucked in together. Now it doesn't look much like a rose now, but if I start pulling these petals out that I just put on and just giving them a little flip on the end, you can see the rose start shaping up. There's our 5 petals that we just added. And there you have a rose made with 1 petal at a time on a bud that was made with paste. So they're very easy to do. Now, if you can see how long they get when you're making them. So if you want, you can set that down and use a little knife and cut it off square. And then you can just set those aside to dry. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make the rose using the all-in-one cutter where you're cutting 5 petals at one time. And today I'm going to use the gem cutter, but really any brand will work equally as well. So I have my paste all rolled out. Put a little bit of cornstarch on the bottom and the top. And set that right in there. Go in a circular motion. Make sure you get a nice clean cut. And that should pop right out. I'm going to put that on a pad so I can thin the edges. And there we go. Same thing as we did with the single petals. We'll use a ball tool or the end of a cell pin. Half on the paste, half off the paste. And just thin the outer edges. Give them a little bit of movement. Now I will tell you that when you're making the roses without a wire, that your paste is going to be a little bit thicker than it normally could be when you're doing the wired ones. And the reason is, on the wired ones, you can hold them upside down by the wire and the petals will naturally fall in the right way. And you can use super, super, super thin pieces of gum paste. When you're building a rose this way and you're not flipping them over to let the petals hang naturally, a little bit thicker gum paste will make it easier for you to make the rose. Okay, so I have both centers, or both petals. I'm going to use the number 2 cell bud. I'm going to put a little bit of water in the middle. I'm going to set that right on there. Now, from here, there are five petals, and the best way to look at this is the head, these are the arms, and these are the feet. So think of it as like a little figurine. I'm going to start by wetting one of these almost all the way up. I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to wrap it right around and make a tight little bud out of it. And if you need to glue that together with a little bit of water, don't be afraid to do it. So I've taken one arm. Now I'm going to go across over here, and I'm going to take the other arm. I'm wetting about halfway up the petal. I'm going to come up on this side, and I'm going to do the other half of the bud. I'm trying to keep this as a tight bud. So now you have the center of the bud. So now you have the head and the 2 legs. It doesn't matter which one you start with, really. I'm going to start down here. I'm going to bring this up, wrap this around, just squeeze on the bottom. Again, if you need a little glue in there, just add a little water. And then I'm going to wet the final 2. And I'm going to bring those up. And then the final one. So rather than doing one petal at a time, basically you're getting all your petals at one time. Then I'm just going to pinch that back a little bit and sort of open up that bud. Well, now I have the center of the bud done. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to prepare my other one. Now, the other one I've already softened the edges with a ball tool. So now I'm just going to wet about halfway up on each petal. And then in the middle, so that this sticks right to it. Put that right in the middle. And I find it just easier to work in my hand. Okay. So where 2 of these petals joined, I'm going to bring one up. And then I'm going to add another one. Just pinch along the bottom as you go, and then bring up the other one. And each time you're overlapping the one before it. When you get to your last petal, just like before, I'm going to pull this one back. This petal is going to go over this one on this side and under that one. And that way I have a complete spiral. Go around, pinch all the way around the bottom so it solidifies together, and then you can do your magic and just bend these petals out, give them a little life, and your rose is ready to go. And there you go. You have a full rose. Now you can add a 3rd layer of petals, but I will tell you that when you're using a gum paste rose without a wire, it's harder to get that last row of petals on. They become almost flat. When you're doing it on a wire, you can hang it upside down to dry. And every few minutes you can lift it back up and adjust those petals until they stay exactly where you want. So I find most of the time, if I'm going to make a rose without a wire, that I just use the two layers of 5 petals each, and that will give me a really nice rose. And again, let these dry, and then if you want to put a little luster or petal dust on them to give them some life, you can. And you can add a calyx to the back as well. I hope you've enjoyed this short tutorial. Today we use the JEM all-in-one rose. I showed you the FMM all-in-one rose, the PME. The single petals are made by FMM, but there are many metal cutters on the market as well for all the single petals. And I just used a cell board and a cell pad to thin the edges. And then you'll need some sort of a ball tool or the end of a medium cell pin to do that. And then of course your gum paste and whatever coloring you need. Thanks for watching, and check us out at globalsugarart.com for all your decorating needs. Thank you.